I love copywriting. I really, really love it. And the more you do it, the more you'll love it. I do it every day. So, if I wind back the clock, I used to dread putting my hands to the keyboard and thinking up words. I've now got to the point when actually I really, really enjoy it, because I've learned that with a few simple principles, it becomes naturally and it starts to flow. And when you can start typing as you talk, bearing in mind a few simple rules, the first version of what you do is normally pretty damn good. I'm not talking about headlines and things like this, which I will cover in a second. I'm talking about the body content, and you get in the groove after a while, and your brain starts to think almost subconsciously how to put things down. So the first time's hard, so it's the second and the third, and you rewrite and you practice. But just by doing a paragraph a day or a few paragraphs every day, very quickly you get into the swing of it, and you just get to think like you should. Remembering that copywriting in our context is about writing words that will cause the reader to take an action. That's our goal in terms of copywriting, and that's what we do. So now when I write, I don't think about using the word I or we. I talk about you and your, and we'll come on to that in a second. And that's just one example about how you start to get things right first time, and you start to think in the way that you're ultimately going to need the words to read as. So let's have a look at it. Let me go through. I'll start with the headline. The headline simply has one job, and this is what you need to bear in mind when you're writing a headline. It's got to grab attention and make the reader read the next line. That's it. That's the job. The headline is the grabber. You see clickbait all over the place, and clickbait, although we all hate it and probably recognise it, it works because it plays on emotions, it plays on curiosity, it plays on action, and that's what you want your headline to do. Not clickbait in the negative sense, but clickbait in the positive sense. It's attention grabbing. It's saying, I'm hitting your pain point, I'm hitting your emotion, I'm hitting you with something that's going to trigger you to say, oh, okay, I'll read the next line. And that's what your headline's got to do. Okay, so think of your headline in terms of attention grabbing and making people go, okay, you've got me, I'll read what comes next. Subheading, very similar. Once they've read the headline, they go to the subheading, or the subheadline, call it what you will. It's only got one job, which is to read the next line, and so on. In fact, every sentence, the primary job of every sentence is to make sure they carry on reading. It's got to flow. I often go through all of my content and look at each sentence and ask my favourite question, which I've mentioned before, which is, so what? If a word or a sentence doesn't add anything to the flow and the rhythm of your copy, then you don't need it. You don't need words for words' sake. You don't need sentences for sentence sake or paragraphs for sentence sake. You want people to flow and read it naturally. In the same way that good design goes unnoticed and bad design gets noticed, good copy often goes unnoticed, but bad copy gets noticed. So it's the same mantra in that respect as well. So headline's job, read on. Second subheading, if you've got one, read on. That's the job, to get them to go to the next step. In terms of using the headline, many ways you can do it. If you've got a copy of the Traffic for Sales How to Make People Buy Your Stuff book, we talk about headlines and power words in there, and I give you well over 100, I forget exactly how many, but well over 100 classic headlines that have been proven to work, real headlines that work to get your brain juices flowing and you get into the rhythm of what will and won't work very quickly. Don't forget split testing. We talk about split testing a lot. We talk about the process of marketing where you split test. So a great example of split testing is two identical pages with two different headlines and see which one grabs the most attention, turns into the most conversions. So that's headline and subheading. That's the job. Okay. So some other things to bear in mind when you're putting your fingers on the keyboard, pen to paper, however you do it. And these are some classic ones. Urinary problems, as I call them. It means you've got a problem with weeing. When people read a web page, they're reading it as themselves. Okay, so you've written it for them to read about their pain points, their perception of your benefits, their perception of your solutions. It's all about them. Their primary goal in life is to please themselves, and they don't care how many years you've been in business necessarily. This comes later on in the sales when they're looking for credibility. To start with, they want to know that you understand their problem, you've got a solution for them, you've got a solution with benefits for them. So you say, You are experiencing this. You can solve this with the following. You will benefit as such. You don't say, we have built this, we will do this, we will do this, or I will do this, I will do that, I will do this. You don't want that. Always think of it as a you and a your situation when you're writing. And that's one great example about how once you've done it a few times, when you write, as soon as you type I on the keyboard or we on the keyboard, you stop, delete it and change it into a you or your based situation. That's the urinary problem. The so what I've mentioned already, which is my favourite question with everything, just so what. Everything you put on there, every list of bullet points, so what, so what. The advanced tip of that is to say because something at the end of it. So, I will give you a comfy seat for your bike is not the way to put it. You will benefit from my softer seat on your bike because you will be able to ride more miles in a comfortable manner. Because is a fantastic power word to justify things that you've said. You want to get access to the free T4S Bootcamp because you'll be able to create high conversion web pages in minutes, not weeks. So because is a very good word to answer the so what scenario. Don't assume that your reader knows the answer. Always assume that you have to justify what you're saying. Buy this because this. You will benefit this way because it will do that. You can access this because it will get you that. Because, fantastic word to address the so what question. Don't do it on every sentence. That will become a bit crazy. If you say everything because something, everything because something, everything because something, again, that turns into bad copy which will stand out. You want it to flow. So where appropriate, use the because word. Bounce around, make music. What I mean by this is that you want to write as you talk. I will use long sentences that go on and we'll discuss X, Y, and Z, and I'll use short sentences. And then I'll do something else. And when you're talking, you have rhythm, you have bounce. It's like verbal music. Just listen to yourself or other people talking, and you'll realise that the ones that you are more engaged with mix up the lengths of sentences, long and short. When they're talking, they'll go high and they'll go low. They'll go faster and they'll go slower. By getting that rhythm, you're creating a much more engaging presentation of your words. And this happens, it's true in real life. If you're on a stage, you go fast, you go high, and you go slow, and you go low. You use very long sentences that go on and on and on, and you use short, sharp sentences. Triplets, that's a good example of triplets. Threes, we love threes. Short, sharp sentences. All begin with the same letter S. There's another one there. So, these copywriting tricks that people like things that start off, and we'll come on to that. So that's bouncing around. Triplets I've mentioned already. Avoid gobbledygook, or bullshit, if you want to do it. Unless you're talking to techies about techie things, people don't like jargon. Get rid of jargon. Keep it simple. Don't use acronyms. Anything that makes their brains have to stop and think and go, what? You don't want that. So you want to do it like you can talk to somebody. If you're using a lot of jargon and acronyms and techie speak, people are having to understand that, which they probably won't, and if they do, they've got to interpret it. So get rid of all your jargon and your gobbledygook. Exception being if you're selling a technical or feature-rich thing that is the subject matter of the reader, in which case they will conversely be impressed by what you're talking about because you're demonstrating knowledge, and you know that you don't need to use the full version of an acronym when the acronym is the commonly used version. But generally speaking, avoid jargon. Magic words, and I'm not, you'll be glad to know, going to read out all of these, but these are words which you can have a look to bring into colour your copywriting. So I've mentioned because and you, which are the first ones that you should always use. And then I've got groups of words here which you can use about things that are new, exclusive, urgent, reassuring, caring, saving, about, pain, and then the bonus word of imagine. I love imagine. If you get the buyer to sell to themselves, that is the ultimate goal. If you can get someone to convince themselves that they want what you're selling, then you've cracked it. So long as you're having to convince them, it's hard work. If you can convince your buyer to make the decision to buy, then you've cracked the golden nugget. So imagine is very powerful. Imagine sitting in a comfy seat, or imagine sitting on a comfy chair on your bike. Imagine sitting on a beach. Imagine that it's 80 degrees outside. Imagine that the wind is in your face. Imagine that the food tastes great. Imagine, and go further. Use the 5 senses. Imagine what this book would feel like in your hand. Imagine what this food would taste. The ripe apples, the juicy grapes, all of these wonderful words that get the imagination going, which will help people to convince themselves to buy what you're doing. But have a look at those words. Lots of words there. There's many, many more, but these are some great key words that you can start to incorporate into your copy straight from day one, and you'll start to reuse them. You'll start to have favourites. You'll start to remember the ones that to use. And you can use them as a thesaurus. So rather than, let's pick one, rather than saying, if you're talking about something new, introducing X, I'm introducing, this is being introduced to you. You don't have to use introducing every time. Welcome to the boot camp. I'm introducing this unique breakthrough course. Picking up things. It's exciting and not only surprising. I think you'll find that you're astounded by the content. All of these wonderful words, you can just colour your copywriting and make things come to life. One example, we might as well use it here. This discount is available until midnight on Friday. How about this exclusive discount? This exclusive discount offer is only available until midnight. Act now. Putting in these power words. Okay, rhyme and rhythm. The brain loves rhyme and rhythm. It's why we all love music, and we use this in our copywriting. So, example from Apple: the thinnest, lightest, fastest iPhone ever. We call this unaccented rhythm, and it works with unstressed syllables. So I use this on T4S. It's the quickest, easiest, cheapest page builder ever. Yep, the S at the end of it is a repeating way of getting rhythm and rhyme. Perfect rhyme, as opposed to unaccented rhyme, uses stressed syllables. So innocent smoothies is something which sells well in the UK. This kid's smoothie has zing, ping, and probably some ka-ching. So zing, ping, ka-ching. It's strong syllables that rhyme. So that's the second. The third version of rhyme is alliteration, and it's sometimes called head rhyme, and it's where we have repeating initial consonants. So Apple again, a display that's not just smaller, it's smarter. Smaller, smarter. It's not noticed. Again, good copywriting goes unnoticed, bad copywriting stands out. Display that's not just smaller, it's smarter. It's a way of reinforcing. It works great. Alliteration is very, very widely used in all sorts of communication, particularly in verbal, in real life speaking. Repetition. Again, some examples. And because it's so easy to use, it's easy to love. Easy. Our 100% pure fruit smoothies. No added sugar, no concentrates, no funny business. No. Simple. Repetition. Threes work particularly well again because the human brain loves threes, remember? The rule of triplets. So no added sugar, no concentrates, no funny business. Same with the faster, higher, stronger. The Olympics motto. Again, you've got those unstressed syllables. Faster, higher, stronger. You've got triplets. Okay, and finally the last tip is about imagery, which I've talked about with the imagination. So getting people to imagine things is very strong. There's some good examples here. Imagine side-splitting, adventure-filled, must-see flicks produced by you and shot on iPhone 5. So instead of imagine videos produced by you and shot on iPhone 5, imagine side-splitting, adventure-filled, must-see flicks. Triplets, again, but also imagination and emotive. Here we go with the innocent. I'm reading this out. This drink tastes of sunshine. Not that watery stuff that you get in the UK for 5 or 6 days of the year, but the great, clear, life-affirming rays that you'll only find where these fruits are grown. Wonderful. Emotions. It just kicks in. So, how can you do these? Open your eyes, open your ears, do it. And I'll put it here, read, write, repeat. Just look around at everything that you see. Look at, names of books, look at titles of films, look at adverts on the street, on the TV. Instead of moaning about adverts, watch them. You'll start to spot the ones that actually have got great writing behind them versus the ones that haven't. You'll start to appreciate things that are working. Look at t-shirt logos. Look at, and I can look around my room here and see lots of things here which are all, the Amazing Spider-Man. It's on my wall here. You know, it's things that that work, that you can pick up and that have just been around for decades, if not hundreds of years, and have always worked because the human brain hasn't changed. So open your eyes, open your ears, look around, and just suck it all in, and then try it out. And the more you try it out, the more you will get into that rhythm of writing great copy.